Work Forum, which was established with the Constitution, where the National Police Commissioner and the municipal police chiefs meet on a quarterly basis, and we then set standards and uniform standards between us, and also align in terms of the single policing concept, that we align our training methods and procedures and everything. So in terms of that, at our quarterly meeting in the November 2021, there was a discussion at this, what we call the Chiefs Forum, that how do we enable it that the municipal police members also get vetted and criminal records checked, because we as a municipal police services, we don't have access to the South African Police Service computer systems and criminal record centrums. We are actually like civilians on the side for their systems purposes. And it was then agreed that we will initiate a process where we will at least take all the members' fingerprints, submit it in a manual process to the South African Police Service, and that they will then verify the criminal records at a once-off basis to us. And then we will...
Sorry, Commissioner. You said this was at what Chiefs Forum? Chiefs what?
We call it the Chiefs Forum. The South African Police Service have established a Metro Police nodal point within the South African Police, and the 6 current municipal police services have then established a nodal point as well, where we interact and deal with one another. And then there's a constitution for this forum, and this forum consists then of 2 separate subcommittees. The one subcommittee deals with training-related matters, training academies and training curriculum. And the second committee is the Research, Technology and Uniform Standards Subcommittee, of which I am the chairperson. And then the chiefs themselves have a forum as municipal police. And then on the Friday, we have a combined South African Police Service and Municipal Police Service meeting, where we then try to thrash out any challenges or issues that we have between the forces, and so that we can standardize everything between us. This has been in place since Commissioner Selebe, or General Commissioner Selebe's time when he was the National Police Commissioner. It's continued on since to date.
Thank you. You may go back to where you were. Thanks.
Thank you. So when we returned from the November 2021 meeting at Ekurhuleni, Chief Mapie initiated an immediate interdepartment process where he issued what we call a directive, a standard operating procedure, which is in terms of our policies. He issues a directive to all the staff and the deputy chiefs, which we must then immediately comply with. This directive was that everyone's fingerprints must be taken. It must be submitted to his staff officer, Colonel Ivan du Plessis, who will then make arrangements, and Commissioner Mapie is then also, because the Provincial Police Commissioner was known about this, it was arranged with the Provincial Police Commissioner that the whole of Ekurhuleni's fingerprints will be taken, Ekurhuleni Metro Police, and then this will be analyzed by South African Police Service and feedback will be provided to us.
Was this to be done for the first time, or is it something that had been done within the EMPD before?
In EMPD, it was done, but very haphazardly and randomly. It wasn't done on a regular basis at all. It was initially when we became members, when we were established, which is like 22 years ago, it was done initially. But thereafter, it was only done when you recruit people. The recruits' fingerprints will be taken. But officers in the force would stay without having their fingerprints being taken. It's only when you do promotions. During a promotion process, the shortlisted candidates, their fingerprints will be taken, and so that you can look at the promotions. But it wasn't a regular exercise done.
I am aware that in your statement you mentioned that Brigadier Mkhwanazi refused. Refused to be subjected to this, but before that, had he ever been subjected to this process?
Not at all. It would have been only during his original appointment as a recruit. That was the only time that it would have been done.
Thank you. Please continue.
So
Commissioner, before you move on, may I invite you to your annexure RS 18, and we have this conversation in the context of, or with reference to the actual directive issued by the Chief of Police, Chief Mapie, in 2021. And in particular, I would like you to concentrate what my reading of the directive. The opening paragraphs and the first 3 paragraphs in large part deal with the legislative framework, what the law provides, insofar as vetting is concerned. I would like to draw your attention to the second last paragraph, the penultimate paragraph on that page, at page 47, the last paragraph, and then you can move over then to the process to be followed as prescribed by that directive. So if you could deal with what the directive required of all members, and then we will take it from there as regards the issue of compliance or non-compliance. Thank you.
Must I start at the second last paragraph of the directive?
Yes,
on
where
page
it
1?
says, where it references the National Strategic Intelligence Act.
Correct. So the directive explains the legislative framework where there's into to prevent any labor issues if officers wants to disagree with it. So it starts off in the second last paragraph to say the National Strategic Intelligence Act, Act number 39 of 1994, in section 2, capital A, 1, small a and small b, is very specific that employees of an organ of state may be vetted. The city of Ekurhuleni is considered an organ of state as envisaged in this act, and therefore all employees of EMPD are included to be vetted. The South African Police Services Crime Intelligence Section has been instructed or appointed to perform the vetting of all municipal police services by the National Police Commissioner, and the standard forms as printed and issued by the government printer shall be used, e.g. SAP 91 inquiry. And then on page 48, the process to be followed. The annual vetting process for EMPD shall start on 1 January 2022 and be concluded by 28 February 2022. Disciplinary action will be instituted against any non-compliance. During this process, each divisional head shall be responsible to ensure that all employees in their respective divisions' fingerprints be taken on the prescribed form, SAP 91, and submitted to the office of the Chief, Colonel Ivan Duplessis, the staff officer in the Chief's office. The forms will then be submitted to the Gauteng Provincial Police Commissioner's office for analysis and feedback to the Chief's office. And then it's signed by Commissioner Mapie as the Chief of Police.
Thank you. Reading on the process to be followed, item 1 stipulates that the annual vetting process, or states that the annual vetting process shall start on the 1st of January 2022. My question is, was this process intended to be repeated on an annual basis? Was that the intention? Was that your understanding of?
Correct, Commissioner. Because in Ekurhuleni it wasn't done. It was only done upon promotions, and it was only done when you are initially recruited. All the other Metro Police departments do it on an annual basis. And we were the only ones who actually, when it came to light and during these discussions at the Portfolio Police Committee, we noticed that we don't do everyone every year. We only do the promotion part of it, and we only do upon recruitment. And therefore, the decision was made that this annual vetting shall be instituted and it shall start as an annual for everyone.
And I see that at item 2, it states that during this process, each divisional head shall be responsible to ensure that all employees in their respective divisions' fingerprints be taken. This is 2021, December 2021. Please remind us how many divisional heads were there within EMPD and specifically who they were.
The divisions were Division Operations and Specialized Services, which have Commissioner Goodman Mazolo as the head of that division. It was Division Auxiliary and Support Services, of which I was the head as Deputy Commissioner Spies. It was the Division Security, of which Commissioner Ndumiso Kwabe was heading the Security and Loss Control. There was a Division Licensing, which was then headed by Mr. Hamilton Ledwaba.
Choose your price up front, then ride.
Traffic, ne? Good thing we have a set fare. No surprises.
You can't choose the traffic. But you can choose your price for a ride.
Dad, I'm a genius. We don't have to freeze anymore. I can make us penguins fly.
That's going to be tricky without wings.
Exactly. That's why I've got Red Bull. It gives you wings. All we have to do is drink it.
And how?
Come on, Dad, just drink it. But why?
Why? It's 40 degrees below. Or did you think we're standing here for fun?
Red Bull gives you wings, but only if you drink it.
Sorry, I have to, in my mind, go back, make sure that I mentioned. And there was a division compliance. However, division compliance was vacant and there was no appointment in that position at that stage. The functions of that division was divided between the other deputy chiefs at that stage.
Okay, you may proceed with your testimony then. What did you do or what happened after this directive was issued by Chief Mapie?
So from my section, I had a subsection within me called the warrant of arrest section. That warrant of arrest section was headed by a Colonel Foster, and I tasked him and his whole team to immediately start the process on 1 January, taking my division's fingerprints. That was concluded in January already, the whole division of auxiliary and support services. I then made him available to the other divisions to say, please assist the other divisions because they take too long to do this process. And by the end of February, which the chief's deadline was, a large portion of it was concluded except the southern region and the specialized services. Specialized services refused to have their fingerprints taken at all. This section is the section that resorts under then Brigadier Mkwanasi. They refused to have their fingerprints taken. The southern region, the reason they haven't concluded yet is they are the largest region. They have the most officers and they were running late because of the volumes and the officers working different shifts and taking their fingerprints. So there was a verbal extension that we can carry on during the year with it. And at the end of February and March, Colonel Du Plessis then took all the fingerprints that was already submitted, handed it over to the Provincial Police Commissioner's office, and they started to analyze it. In the South African police side, it took a long time. It was like 4 to 5 months to take it, but it was distributed to different criminal record centres like Soweto, Johannesburg, Tshwane, and East Rand because of the huge volume that came in. And then it started to trickle back, and eventually, once it started coming back, one of my sections, Colonel van Rooyen, which is the human resource liaison person, her section was then tasked to scan and capture the returns, which is the SAP 69 forms, which is the criminal records. It will state on the front page either illicit activity recorded or no illicit activity recorded. If it says no illicit activity recorded, then there's no record of SAPS looking for you or having any record of you. And if there's illicit activity recorded, there will be a SAP 69, which is the actual record, will then be attached to the back of that. So Colonel van Rooyen and her section started to capture all of these returns as it is. Eventually there was more than 3,700 in total. I don't have the exact figure, but I've got a spreadsheet with the actual names on it that was submitted to HR. And in this process, when we got to a stage where it's a year later now, we're supposed to start the next session of vetting again, but we haven't even concluded the first session again. And I was then tasked by Chief Mapie to give feedback on this specific status, where in the project are we, because we are capturing, my section is capturing it. I then prepared a feedback where I presented and I started, we were at a meeting which we call PEXCO inside. It's Police Executive Committee, it's the Chief of Police with his deputy chiefs and the Head of Internal Affairs that is together. And at this meeting where we were present, the Chief was chairing and I was presenting the feedback of this or where we are. The moment I started to give feedback, Brigadier Mkwanasi was sitting right opposite me, and he started to scream with even spit and froth that comes out of his mouth at me, where he was screaming extremely disrespectful towards me, screaming that he doesn't have a criminal record, and I'm saying he's got a criminal record. And I said to him, but I'm not saying you've got a criminal record. I'm giving feedback on the status of the fingerprints. What I do say is that your section didn't provide the fingerprints and they refused to provide the fingerprints. I'm not saying you have a criminal record. And he just kept on screaming at me. In front of all of us in the meeting, he physically took his phone out and he started phoning. And he speaks, you can clearly hear, he speaks to the city manager, Imogen Mashazi. And he puts the phone down and he says, the city manager says, this process will stop immediately. And he turned around and he walked out in an extremely disrespectful manner. Closed the door. We were all still shocked that a senior officer can actually even act in this manner. And the chief of police, Commissioner Mapierre, then calmed us all down and says, stop, don't discuss further anything here. He will go and speak to the city manager afterwards and he will calm everything down. We must just carry on doing our work. And from that meeting then, the very next day, I received an email from Kasheka, who is the HOD of HR, wherein she stated that the process and we must submit everything to them. At that stage, I have already prepared what we call a council item. It is a draft item that we can report to council. Everything is already in the item, the wording, the background, the discussion, up to resolutions even, but it's still in the draft form. It states at the top draft as well. Attach this list of officers with a graph of what the crimes are, what the officers are accused of, just redacting their names, and the spreadsheet itself has been encrypted with a password that no one can really open it if they do see it. And we submitted that as a proposal to say, we from a Metro Police side thinks that HR must deal with these officers in the following manner. And the proposal that we in the draft made is that the officers must be offered the chance to provide proof that they have been expunged, because there is in law an expungement process, and it's possible that they've been expunged and the certificates has not been submitted, that we make sure that it's a proper process, so that every officer be given the opportunity. So we propose, because we know how long the process takes in the Justice Department, is to give them a period of 6 months, provide proof of expungement, and if you do not have proof of expungement, that we then start initial proceedings at the end to either dismiss or to take disciplinary actions against the officers who've got criminal records. So then that day a meeting was then set up with HR. However, it was postponed at the last minute to the next day, and we then met at Kasheka's boardroom in Germiston.
Well, before you continue, Commissioner, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to take you back to Brigadier Mkhwanazi. And you said his entire section had refused basically to be subjected to this fingerprint process. Do you know how many police officers were in this section?
Commissioner, it's close to 200.
Oh, okay. Did you get any information as to how it came about that all of them did not subject themselves to the process?
When Colonel Foster and the group of officers that I've assigned, when they came back to me every day to give feedback to say they've done so many fingerprints per day or and they all came back to me and says they visited specialized services officers and the officers were not there, and when they spoke to the supervisor said to them they're not going to give their fingerprints because it's an illegal process. So I received everyday feedback just to say that the specialized services doesn't want to give their fingerprints on that. And because there was also from some of the union members that came to see me that wanted to have clarity, because they say their members have approached them to say we're taking their fingerprints, and nowhere in the Act does it say we can take their fingerprints. And then we had sessions with organized labor as well to say, but here it is. You know, it's in numerous different legislation that police officers' fingerprints can be taken. It even states in the Regulation 11 of the Municipal Police Services, it states if you refuse to have your fingerprints taken, you commit an offense. So we explained to the union members there was a proper process to get them as well a faith that this is a legal process. There's nothing illegal or untoward about it.
And the supervisors that you say you got, or Foster, was it? Was it Foster that was doing the...
Colonel Foster is the
Colonel
one
Foster,
that...
yes,
he was in charge of the unit that went to assist and
yes.
take the fingerprints.
The supervisors that you say he got feedback from, would those have been supervisors who fell under the supervision of Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
Correct. The specialized services concert, there's one of the supervisors there was Dion Singh. He was from the K9 Equestrian Unit and the Drug Enforcement Unit. He's one of them. And then the others, I don't know all of them, but there's specific people that I know that was extremely arrogant and they just blatantly refuse to even make themselves available to have their fingerprints taken.
Thank you.
If I may just pick up on that line of questioning, Commissioner Spies. We read Chief Mapie's directive of the 21st of September. That's your Annexure RS 18, where he sets out the process to be followed.
Is it not December, Ms.
December, did I say different month? 21st December 2021.
Correct.
I apologize. It's for the confusion. And that is your Annexure RS 18. You state, as you have highlighted to the chair, that the Specialized Services Division under Brigadier Mkwanazi refused to submit their fingerprints. You now have also made reference to Regulation 11, which stipulates that it shall be an offense to refuse to have your fingerprints taken. In his directive at item 1, page 48, Chief Mapie indicated that disciplinary action will be instituted against any non-compliance. Are you aware of steps, if any, taken against Brigadier Mkwanazi and or members of his division for the refusal to have their fingerprints taken?
No further steps were taken against them because in my testimony, as I will get to it, this process has been killed and stopped by Kasheka from HR.
Whether you are buying or selling, find your happy place with Auto Trader.
So as of December 22, well, I'll take it's February because this process was supposed to conclude in February 22, there was this absolute refusal to have the fingerprints taken, and you'd retired in February 2025.
Correct, Commissioner.
For completeness, at the time you retired, had their fingerprints been taken?
Not that I know of.
I'm going to, because of this line of questioning, I'm going to jump slightly ahead, and we don't have to project. You have Annexure RS 21 appearing from page 61. This, you say, are the results of, or the status of all members whose fingerprints, who were vetted. And
Correct.
You have a legend explaining their respective status. My question for the moment is, do we read Annexure RS 21 to be exclusive of all members falling under the Specialized Services Division? Is that a correct interpretation?
Now, RS21 is the full database of
Yes.
everyone. That is the 3,762 members.
Yes.
But of that, and it's color-coded then, the no illicit activities is marked in green.
No, you will get to that part. I just want to know those 3,700 you list.
Yes.
At RS21, you provide the status of each. My question is it a correct reading that this list does not include any member of Brigadier Mkwanazi's Specialized Services Division?
Now, their names will be there under outstanding.
Okay.
And marked in yellow, because the ones marked in yellow, we haven't yet taken their fingerprints. Those are the ones who hasn't their fingerprints taken. There is obviously some that has been off sick or not at work and their fingerprints couldn't be taken. So out of the 211 that is outstanding at that stage, those include, and you will see at the divisions and sections that it's specialized services. There is here and there another individual which is from another section, but it is because of reason.
Okay.
The southern region is, for instance, the one that they were still busy. Their fingerprints been taken and late submitted. We haven't got the results back.
Okay, thanks for that.
I'm sure, Ms. Sildo, we are not expected to actually see what's on here, not with the size of the lettering.
It shall be reproduced in what, A3 and refiled,
unless
yes.
you arrange magnifying glasses for us.
Indeed, Chair. We have thought of how to engage with this for the listeners. It's difficult to work through it. We cannot project it on the screen because it contains personal information of members.
I doubt that we really have to.
Then we don't have to.
I think it's enough to just get an idea of the numbers by looking at the color coding. That's
Okay.
enough for our purposes.
Then
So don't worry about
having to
three or
share,
whatever
yes.
else. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Silo, if I may just follow up on an
Yes.
earlier question, just in case it wasn't answered. You were asked, Commissioner, whether the 200, the people that belong under or that fall under specialized services, any of them had been fingerprinted by the time you left. And your answer was you're not aware if that was done. And I want to ask slightly different question. The directive, you say, contemplated that there would be annual vetting process starting from the date from 2022.
Correct.
As at the time that, and you've told us that that process was stopped, the 2022 process was stopped, so it didn't conclude. By the time you left, had any vetting at all, the annual vetting that was contemplated, had it happened or was it happening at all?
No further. That 376 that we have vetted from inside the department, that was the only vetting that was done, and then the process to carry on from that was physically stopped, and thereafter no vetting was again done on criminal records. There is a later process where just after Commissioner, when Mkonasi was appointed as a deputy chief, then, and this vetting process was started, there was an instruction from the chief of police to the 3 deputy chiefs that we must be fully vetted. In that process, he again refused to be vetted at all, and Commissioner Kwabe, forms were supplied to him, and he started the process to be vetted, and I answered the chief back to say, I'm already vetted to a top secret clearance level, here's my top secret clearance security number. My own security vetting has then, at a stage, it's only valid for 5 years. It expired and it was redone, and I've received my new one again. So I'm fully vetted to top secret, which now expires in 2030 somewhere. I don't know the exact date, but it's somewhere in 2030, I think August 2030.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ms. Silo.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Staying then with RS21, which we will not project. It's color-coded green, yellow, red, and without giving any detail, for future reference, can you summarize what the color coding means? What is green, what is highlighted red, and yellow, the legend?
This is an Excel spreadsheet containing all the employees of Ekurhuleni Metro Police in 2022 that was used to capture the results of the criminal record vetting. Everything covered in green is where no illicit activity was recorded, and that is a total of 3,174 people. The ones colored in a light beige color is the southern region who has submitted late because of their large volumes, and they've already submitted 102 SAPs, but we haven't received the results of that 102 yet back. And then there's a group of illicit activity in a dark red, which is 275 officers that have illicit activity recorded, and then the 211 is still outstanding, which gives us a total of 3,762 at that stage. Under the dark red...
Sorry, Commissioner. In the red, that is where illicit activity has been identified, there's the total number, but then to the far right, there's another number. What does that signify?
So that's a lighter red, and it states awaiting trial. So when the illicit activity sometimes come back, it means that an officer has, for instance, been arrested and he's already been charged and he already pleaded and his criminal case is running. So we don't yet have a result of that person. So we just indicate it as awaiting trial because process is still ongoing.
Oh, thank you very much. Because it's just sticking out and hanging, as it were. I did not see the heading above. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have in the list officers who have been convicted?
And what is that number? I can't quite read it.
It's 100.
100. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
In the list, do you have officers who have been convicted?
That's out of the 275.
So when you say illicit activity identified, the 275 have been convicted,
Yes, Commissioner.
and then the 100 are
Yes.
awaiting trial.
Yes, Commissioner. I do have made a graph which I presented at the same meeting on page 60, which is RS20.
Before we get to RS20, we'll get to RS20. Can we stay with 21 for the moment? You were still going through the color coding methodology you applied. So you had said the beige, those highlighted in a beigeish color, those were involved the southern region mainly, which has a large number of members.
Correct,
and had
Commissioner.
not completed the process.
Correct, Commissioners. Their fingerprints were already taken and submitted, but we still haven't received feedback from the South African Police Service on their results.
Then you have the yellows. What does yellow?
The yellow means that the fingerprints has not been taken and the fingerprints has also not been submitted. So they are still outstanding and therefore nothing has happened with them yet.
And it is in this category that members of the Specialized Services Division would fall.
Correct, Commissioners.
Now, if you could go back to page 50, that is an extra RS19.
Let's talk murder.
We need to go face to face with the mob.
It's like The Godfather. I made him an offer he couldn't decline.
Okay.
There appears to be a memorandum from Chief Mapieye dated the 6th of February 2024, addressed to El Kasheka, HOD Human Resource Department. You see that? And it's signed at the bottom by him. Is it this document? It says, kindly find attached report from the EMPD to Human Resources Department regarding the status quo of EMPD employees with criminal and or illicit activities recorded against them as requested by the Human Resources Department in the meeting held on the 27th of February 2024 at HR Corporate Head Office in Germiston. Do you see that? At paragraph 52 of your statement, you reference a meeting you had with Mr. Kasheka. That date of the 27th of February 2024, that Chief Mapieye refers to at page 50, is it the same meeting or is it a different meeting? Because your meeting of at paragraph 52 does not appear to have a date.
The meeting that we held with HR, so in the beginning of February, there was a meeting which is the SPEXCO meeting.
Yes.
But then it was postponed, the meeting that was set up with HR. And that meeting took place on 27 February. On the letter of Commissioner Mapieye, the date that it was issued is actually 6 March. Because the letter wasn't issued before the meeting. It must be a typo because we actually had, on the 5th of March, we had drafted the item already based on what was discussed in that meeting. We must provide all the information to HR. So the letter that Commissioner Mapieye signed referenced the 27 February meeting which we was held with HR. It is that meeting at page 52 where we held a meeting with HR.
So you are suggesting that the date at page 50 might be wrong. Instead of 6 February, it must read 6 March 2024.
Correct.
And I think that attached to that would appear to be a report dated the 5th of March 2024. So I think that correction would accord actually with the contents of the document at the report at page 51, which is
Correct,
of a later
Commissioners.
date.
Even paragraph 1, Advocate Silla, on page 50, it refers to a meeting of 24 February. So
Indeed, 27 February.
yeah,
Yes.
27.
So we do accept that typo. Do you want to deal with this report starting at paragraph 51?
At this meeting that we held on the 27th of meeting, the people present there was Ms. Kasheka, who is the head of human resources. She was the chair. There was Mr. Lefu Makoba, Colonel Van Rooyen from the Metro Police, Brigadier Julius Mkonasi, Colonel Ivan Duplessis, and there was also Mr. Maripe Matakocha. He's the divisional head at corporate HR. And then it was discussed there is to say that we as Metro Police cannot do this process. The process must be restarted on suggestion from Brigadier Mkonasi from scratch because the people who took the fingerprints and the people who's involved in this process cannot be trusted. And then it was resolved by Kasheka that we will submit our complete database together with the draft report and the letter to her office, and it shall be managed by Lefu Makoba. So, and we must provide all the information, everything over to them, and it will then be dealt with them. So, we came back, and the next day we submitted this draft. What we say is a draft report is normally corporate human resources will do a council report because it's human resources and HR related, but to expedite the process, we drafted the whole item already for them to say this is what we suggest, and we submitted that to them. The Excel spreadsheet itself, I encrypted it with a serious password, and I then sent that via email to Lefu Makoba, and I've sent the password via WhatsApp to him. We had up and down email correspondence where he stated he cannot open it because he forwarded to some other people, and I explained to him, well, I don't want to release it where you can forward it to anyone else because it's POPI. POPI Act is critical, and this is containing all the database information of employees plus criminal records, and I don't want this to be circulated in the department at all. When eventually he came back and he CC'd everyone and he says, but provide the password to him and via email. So after about a week later, he said to me, but POPI doesn't apply because it's internal correspondence, and I then sent the password via email to him as well, which he then replied back to me to say, okay, you can open it now. It was then forwarded, this item, and everything was forwarded to corporate and legal, and corporate and legal made comments to say that our approach as Metro Police is wrong. We cannot do, because our suggestion was that we give the employees a chance to provide their expungement proof, and if nothing of that happens, is that they then be either dismissed or that disciplinary steps be taken against them. So corporate and legal came back and says, no, you cannot dismiss them, you cannot do this process, we must leave it in the hands of corporate HR. And exactly at that point, that's where it stopped. It never went further than that at all again.
Can I find out from you, you say Ms. Kasheka directed that you submit all the data that you had collected by then, including what's reflected at RS21 and RS20, which we shall deal with shortly, which is a summary of the nature of the crimes that members were found either to have been guilty of or awaiting trial for. Who is Mr. Lefu Makoba? What position did he hold at the time? And what particular expertise did he have in regard to matters of vetting? Do you know?
I do not know his exact position that he held, but he was at corporate HR, and he used to report to the division head employee relations, Kolani and Nisa, who would be in a better position to actually explain Lefo Makoba's position. But Lefo was always involved in where disciplinary matters is operated from. So he was running in that section. I don't know his exact position, but he was dealing with the disciplinary cases at the back end in the HR process.
You also indicate that in that same meeting where this instruction was given, present was a Mr. Maripe Matakocha. Who is that? And what position did he hold?
At that stage, I also didn't know his position there, but Mr. Matakocha was a normal HR person, most probably a senior manager or divisional head at HR, and he was the one who, during my suspension, which I will come to much later, he's the one who signed and recommended it. So I know Mr. Matakocha. Also, in my earlier testimony, I mentioned an incident where Council took a resolution to adopt a new structure. Mr. Matakocha is the one who presented this new structure, and the one who I discussed with, where he stated to me that my position is not in the structure anymore, but they will keep me till my contract ends, and I will be on the site and read newspapers or provide information to them and assist everyone during my period when the contract is still running.
As a matter of interest, in that period when you were supposed to read newspapers, did the EMPD undertake to provide you with the newspapers, or were you expected to buy them for yourself?
Commissioners, no. I believe it was tongue-in-cheek from him, just making a stupid remark. It's because I was cross because of the fact that even in my mind, I couldn't understand how you can change a complete municipal police structure organigram without consulting any of the municipal police officers. Not management, not me as a divisional head. That whole structure was changed by corporate HR without any input from us at all. We didn't even discuss it, and we didn't give input into it. And then council makes this resolution, and we discover it when it's leaked from the council, because the moment it goes in the council resolution, it becomes a public document, and we obviously discover it then. And in this arguments, when I ask him, so where am I? Why am my position not here? And that's when I won't say tongue-in-cheek remark is, but you've got a contract, we will pay you your salary, what do you worry about? You can sit and read newspapers every day.
We dealt with your RS-21, which is that big document that provides the results for vetting in respect of all 3,700 members. You have summarized this. No, you haven't summarized it. Insofar as crimes committed or convicted for, you have put this in a table format, a graph format rather, to indicate the extent and the nature of the crimes and the extent to which members are either convicted currently or are facing charges for. Would you like to talk to this graph?
On page 60, I have created this graph, and it's obviously in the spreadsheet, just a graph which is sorted from the highest amount of crimes. And the crimes as it's captured is obviously, as it comes from the 69, it is just like a abbreviation of the crime. And it then runs from the top of assault cases where officers were found guilty for assault with a total of 58 as the most. And it goes down to uttering, which is 1. Must I read every one of them, Commissioners?
I think you can just highlight the key ones, or maybe, I won't say the most concerning, because all crimes are concerning.
So from the top it goes, assault was 58, theft cases was 41, driving under the influence is 33, reckless and negligent driving 28, murder awaiting trial was 15, fraud awaiting trial was 14, robbery awaiting trial was 8.
May I interrupt you there? Okay, we don't have to go through all of them. Just based on what you've just read, murder awaiting trial 15, fraud awaiting trial 14, robbery awaiting trial 8, fraud 7. So effectively, these are members in the system who are awaiting trial or convicted for these crimes?
With the exception of fraud, Ms.
Except for the exception of fraud?
Yes.
The murder, there is already a little bit lower down, there is 4 officers that's been found guilty for murder as well. So there is 15 awaiting trial, meaning they haven't been found guilty yet. Their trial is still ongoing. But further down the list, there's 4 for murder. There's 4 for rape. There's 3 for robbery. So even though at the top there's a awaiting trial portion, there is officers that have been found guilty already that is in the service with criminal records, very serious criminal records.
And you say those convictions are in respect of murder, rape, and fraud, did you say? The convictions.
If I categorize from what I consider as serious crime for police officers, there's like negligent loss of firearm is 6, but if we go to things like extortion is 5, housebreaking is 5, kidnapping is 5, murder is 4, rape is 4, robbery is 3, pointing of firearm, the defeating, gathering act. So from the highest list, which is more related to the Schedule 1 type of offences, the murder, the rapes, and that there is, and then there's at the top the awaiting trial portions that is still not concluded.
Just to make sure we read it correctly, in some instances, taking for instance an example, fraud, you have fraud awaiting trial, then you have fraud. You see that at the top.
Correct.
Where you have not indicated awaiting trial, does that mean the figures you give are in respect of convictions?
Correct, Commissioners.
So anything here that is not highlighted as awaiting trial, these are all members have these convictions, including rape, murder.
Correct, Commissioners.
And they're in the system.
Correct.
And robbery.
Yes, Chair. Okay.
Commissioner, because you said earlier that when you join the service, you get vetted, can we conclude from this document that these offenses were committed after the members entered the service? Because I'm assuming if they were committed before, you would not have become a member of EMPD because you would have failed the vetting.
Big day ahead.
Someone already had a power start. High in energy, 7B vitamins, and iron. Kellogg's Corn Flakes. Power breakfast.
No, Commissioner. That is unfortunately an assumption on your side.
Yeah.
Some of these cases stem back from the late 80s, 90s, and how the officers passed the initial recruitment process is also unknown to me then, because their fingerprints were taken, but how they get forced into the system, I don't know. But these records obviously relate to everything the South African Police Service have as a criminal record based on the fingerprints. And some of the cases, if you look at the convictions, the conviction dates were long ago as well, prior to their actual appointment date. There's one which is a very strange matter. It has been reported to us as well. There was an officer, he's out of the service now because he got caught again and then he was sentenced to imprisonment and he sits in prison. The officer was found guilty of murder. He was never sentenced. And this is a very old case, which I don't understand as a policeman how that happened, if you can be found guilty of murder and then not sentenced. But it's an old case. It's things that we picked up.
What is the policy? What is the EMPD policy regarding the employment of people who have previous convictions?
It's legislation that prescribes it. It's in terms of Regulation 11 of the Municipal Police Services, one of the requirements of the minimum requirements to be appointed as a member is that you may not have a previous criminal record, except if it's politically motivated or there's a specific wording related to that. But it is, you may not have a criminal record upon appointment. It's one of the challenging factors we have, specifically of interpretation in Ekurhuleni, not in the rest of the country, but in Ekurhuleni they interpret the words, because the sub-regulation starts with the exact words, upon appointment, you may not have a criminal record. They take it as upon appointment, not your career. So it's as if they, as HR, think, well, you can be appointed and thereafter you can build a career of criminals. And that is maybe something that needs to be changed, that it makes the word less interpretation available for people to say, but you may never have a criminal, in my mind, you may never have a criminal record as a policeman. There could be, and this is something that I say with respect, there could be matters that is happening in your career, which could be waived, or there could be a process of expungement that happened. As an example, you could be involved in an incident where there's, let's say, serious robbery or a cash in transit, and there's a shooting incident, and you accidentally, you shoot a robber, but you also shoot an innocent citizen, and you get found guilty for culpable homicide maybe in that matter. In the execution of your duties, and you won't really have intent or anything like that, there could be an expungement process if the law allows it. But at the moment, the law states, upon appointment, you shall not have a criminal record. And this is interpreted by Ekurhuleni HR to mean that that day when I was appointed, 1 April 1991, I didn't have a record then. Or when we established as a Metro Police, 16 February 2002, I didn't have a criminal record at that day. But thereafter, it is an open field according to them. There is no policy as well, and that is problematic. There's no policy what happens if an officer do get a criminal record during his service. There should be an incapacity process where you are not fit to be a policeman anymore, and you should be worked out of the system. One of the things that is absolutely critical, but this is my own opinion, there's a few others that have the same opinion, is that in terms of the singularity of what the Constitution, singularity of policing in the country, where all policing service must be the same manner, is that we can have different payrolls, meaning that local government, you're employed by local government or you're employed by national police. But at the bottom end, the standards of a disciplinary agreement, the way that you are being dealt with as a policeman should be the same. We have, for instance, a large challenge because my officers are locally bound. Ekurhuleni officer is employed in Ekurhuleni. The Ekurhuleni HR systems, computer systems, for instance, doesn't have access to Home Affairs, Harness, or the African Police. There's no interface between these systems. So my officer can physically go to Durban on holiday, and he can commit a rape, he can commit a robbery, he can commit anything wrong there. We will never know it happened. The officer can come back, and every time he has to appear in court, he takes a day's leave and he fly out, and we will only discover it if he doesn't pitch for work one day because he sits in prison. And we have there's even a strange anomaly that happened now. One of our officers was found guilty of murder. He actually, at Vosloorus police station, he shot and killed his wife, who was a captain in the police. He shot and killed her in the charge office of the police station. Our police station and their police station is very close to one another. They're separated by like a parking space between us. And he shot and killed his wife. He came out of the police station, and then obviously everyone, it's blue on blue, police and Metro Police all rush out because of the shot. And then he tried to commit suicide, and he shot himself in the head. He was paramedics on scene, rescued. He actually looks like he sustained no damage, and he was released from hospital. He was eventually found guilty, and he was incarcerated, and I believe it was like a period of 15 years. He came out on parole now in this year, and he lodged an unfair dismissal case because he wasn't processed in the correct manner, and Ekurhuleni reinstated him. So the systems doesn't speak to one another, and that is something that if we, for instance, want to take, if I want to check if my officer have a criminal record, I don't have any access to it at all. I cannot see it. The only manner I can do it is I take his fingerprints manually, I submitted to South African Police Service. I, as municipal police, must pay the South African Police Service either 85 or 180 rand as a government entity to South African Police Service to say, please check this fingerprints for me. They will take weeks and months to do it and then come back with a result to me. So I, as a police, municipal police, don't have access to criminal records of my officers. My officer could be in domestic violence incidents, be involved at home against his spouse or wife, and the police could hold an inquiry about his fitness to possess a firearm in terms of the Firearms Control Act. Or there could be a domestic violence protection order against the officer, and where the court makes a ruling that he is unfit to possess a firearm. That is captured into SAP systems and court systems. I don't have access to that. What we have in the meantime arranged between us and the South African Police Service is that we provide them with a list of our officers' names, and then at the end of every month the South African Police Service draw an extract of their firearm unfit list to us to say the following officers have been captured in their system as unfit to possess a firearm. But that is one of the critical things that is a problem, is that we have even approached SALGA, which is the the South African Local Government Association, which is the employer actually, to say to them, can we please, and we already had workshops around this, can we have a separate set of conditions of service for municipal police officers than the rest of council, which is aligned to this, to be similar to, it's not the same because it's two different organizations, but that we have systems and disciplinary agreements that a policeman must not only act in the same manner towards every citizen, but he must also be treated in the same manner at the back end. And that unfortunately doesn't exist.
Thank you, Commissioner. You concluded paragraph 52, basically that all this information was shared with Ms. Kasheka's department as per her instruction. So she and her department became aware of what you have just shared with the Commission. Is that correct?
Correct.
You then say this process was subsequently halted and to date no further steps have been taken.
Correct, Commissioners.
I take it when you say it was halted, you mean that it just didn't proceed any further than
Correct.
the point at which...
Nothing further happened. We haven't had any meetings further to that effect. Nothing else in the department took place.
Was there any feedback by Ms. Kasheka as the head of HR or her office as regards this vetting process? Was there any formal communication to
There was no further feedback from Kasheka and neither from Lefo, even though on the sidelines I harassed him the whole time and asked him what's happening. There was no further feedback.
And you recall from Chief Mapie's directive of the 21st of December 2022, he had indicated that disciplinary action will be instituted against non-compliance. What did Chief Mapie at this juncture, which we say is around the 6th of March 2024, do when this process was halted, with the results that you have highlighted in both Annexure RS20 and RS21 regarding members who've got criminal records in the system and members who refuse to be vetted? What did the chief do about all this?
Chief Mapie was already under tremendous pressure of being either suspended or placed on special leave. And I don't know if there was nothing that I, as deputy chief, ever saw that was ever done against any of these officers who refused to submit their fingerprints, or even the people who had a guilty that was found guilty. There was no further steps taken against any of these officers.
So, you're suggesting that Chief Mapie could potentially have been under one of his many suspensions at the time?
Correct.
Because we know that he was finally suspended. The latest is the 25th of September 2024. And this is happening around the 6th of March 2024.
Commissioner Mapie was already in August 2023, after Brigadier Makonasi's disciplinary case has been pushed aside and trying to be stalled. There was already incidents where the then city manager, Mashazi, actually in front of me, she said to him, I'm suspending you now. So this happened here 18 August 2023 already. So he was already suspended. even though the records will indicate that at a later stage they altered the documents to actually make that he was placed on special leave for 30 days and Makwanasi was placed in his position to act. So it was a constant harassment against him, and there was no continuity that anyone do it. But as far as my knowledge is, up to the date when I retired on 28 February, nothing was done against these officers at all. And the process was not started or concluded at all.
And equally so, there was no explanation from the upper echelons of EMPD as to the status of this process or why it is not proceeding. It was never communicated to the divisional heads.
Correct, Commissioner.
Was this, to your knowledge, was this matter ever reported to council of Ekurhuleni?
It wasn't formally reported to council.
I wake up and it's there, the voice telling me to give up. I'll never give up. Slow Mag. Fight fatigue and energy loss all day, every day. Beat your slump. Slow Mag.
With Udemy, there's a world of possibility at your fingertips. With one click, you're in the leading online marketplace for learning and skills. Want to become an AI expert? This is learning from real-world experts around the globe. Want to awaken your artistic side? This is learning your way. Want to switch professions? Help your team reskill? This is Udemy, the power of possibilities.
And that I know of, I do know that there were council questions. The process of council work where councillors will, during a council, they will submit written questions and then the individual departments must answer. So I know that there have been questions from councillors that was raised in council, but because it is an HR-related issue, it was never answered by our department. We saw the questions, but it was always answered by HR. I don't know their answers because I don't see other departments' answers. But from Metro Police, it was because it is HR-related, it was always pushed back towards HR to say, answer this question.
Is it then fair to assume that equally so, you do not know what attitude council adopted on this matter?
No, I don't know
Personally,
the
you
attitude
don't.
of council against this matter.
You conclude then at paragraph 55 to say, to your knowledge, Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi is not vetted, neither has his fingerprints been checked. I guess what we do is to qualify that as at the date of your retirement.
Correct. At
Things
the
could
date of
have
my
happened post your
retirement, it's not been
retirement,
vetted.
Okay.
Commissioner, that conclusion, while it speaks to Brigadier Mkhwanazi, it would be fair from your evidence to say, in fact, his whole specialized services unit that had refused to be vetted as at the time of your departure. To your knowledge, none of them had been vetted.
Correct, Commissioner. For criminal records,
For criminal records.
there's not a single person, except Commissioner Mapie, there's not a single person in the Ekurhuleni Metro Police who has been fully vetted with a classification from either crime intelligence or from the State Security Agency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Commissioner Spies, that then takes us to your next heading. You had dealt with the systemic concerns regarding vetting. Do you recall that? Just to verify your paragraphs 53 and 54. You reference your own
Correct, Commissioners.
clearance.
It is, as I stated earlier, is that Commissioner Mkhwanazi, when he was instructed, the three of us were instructed to be fully vetted by, and as I stated earlier, crime intelligence as a division of South African Police Services is the one that was tasked to actually vet us all. But crime intelligence has huge capacity problems. So we then, together with the portfolio committee, was arranged that State Security Agency assist us so that there's two capacities where we can actually do the process. And an arrangement was made at national level through the Chiefs Forum, specifically with state security agencies to assist us to vet all the levels from Chief of Police for all the municipal police services, from Chief of Police to at least Brigadier level, that the top management, plus their secretaries and people who have access to sensitive information, because we all attend meetings with the National Police Commissioner, with Parliament, with Prof joins with NAT joins, and therefore a decision was made that SSA will assist us to get this process rolling. And that instruction was given by Commissioner Mapie to the three of us that we shall ensure that we submit our fingerprints, a pack of forms to do this vetting. There's a very thick pack of forms and documents that you must add it. You must, for instance, add bank records and information like that. And Commissioner Makwanasi at that stage, he blatantly refused and says he will not be vetted. He is exempted from being vetted. That is his words that he actually used. He's exempted from being vetted. It's not part of his contract.
Commissioner, yesterday we made very good progress on pronouncing Mkhwanazi. Let's revert to that, please.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner, when you say at that point, Brigadier Mkhwanazi blatantly said that he will not be vetted, is this a different discussion in addition to the big meeting that you had where he walked out?
Correct, Commissioners. The first meeting that we had in February was dealing with the vetting, and we used the word vetting actually wrong here. It's with a criminal check. So the first one was dealing with a criminal check of all employees, just fingerprints, criminal check. The vetting exercise is when you actually do a full vetting of, it's close to a lifestyle audit, and it's done by crime intelligence or by state security agency, where they verify your interaction with foreign agents, passports, travel out of the country. They have referees that you must provide that they go and check your bank records. All your assets must be declared, and they then verify it. And you even go at the end of all the investigations done by them, you will go for a polygraph test, and only obviously if you pass everything, then they will issue a certificate or classification of specific vetting. And it was also decided at the meeting that we will be vetted up to a top secret level, which is only valid for 5 years, where a confidential level is valid for 10 years, to make sure that we have the correct vetting.
And this vetting, do you know if the city manager ever became aware that this was required to be done and that Brigadier Mkhwanazi had refused to do it?
I do not know if there was any communication to the city manager.
Okay, thank you.
But sorry, Commissioners, it is part of vetting is also when you're appointed in the senior manager positions in terms of local government structures, you must also comply with what we call the COCTA aptitude and test, and vetting is part of that as well in that process. So she should have known this process because of, maybe not because of the police angle, but definitely because of the senior management angle.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Did you say that the call he made at a meeting was to the head of HR, when you say he was visibly annoyed, even frothing at the mouth?
Imagine our team, Damanga Kai, tries to bong uwe, chume raide.
This ship collected 5 different life forms from the darkest corners of the universe. Monsters.
No. He made the call directly to the city manager.
To the city manager?
He called the city manager, and then when he
the city manager was aware then of the...
It was about the fingerprints checking that his unit and he hasn't been checked.
Okay.
So he made a call about that. It's not about the vetting. The vetting came a little bit later when the letter was sent to us for full vetting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Spisset. And then you conclude that discussion with your own clearance certificate that you say it's valid until the 31st of August 2030, and that will be your annexure to RS22, you confirm?
That's correct, Commissioners.
And this is issued by SSA, State Security?
Correct, Commissioners.
We then move to the next topic from page 24, and here you deal with the suspension of Chief Mapie and other irregular appointments within EMPD. Let's start with paragraph 56, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
So, on the 17th of August 2023, early in the morning, there were WhatsApps being circulated that Chief Mapie will be suspended. And it's like, people make these comments and remarks the whole time. I just ignore all of that going on, and my office is complaining to me what's happening with this. And then the afternoon, we received an instruction that all the brigadiers and the deputy chiefs must immediately report to the city manager's boardroom in Germiston. Upon arrival, as we started to walk in through where the receptionist, as we start to walk in, and this is senior people, this is myself, the deputy chief, the chief of police, and the brigadiers there were, I think it's 8 brigadiers, I will just count them again, but I've listed their names. As we walked in, the VIP protection officers from the city manager who's protecting her confiscated all our cell phones, mobile devices, tablets, and even our computers. And they didn't allow us into the boardroom with any electronic devices. But I walked in with I've got a notebook diary, everything. When I attend meetings, I make notes of everything as I go along. Normally, I would make notes electronically, and then later I will, because it's faster for me to type and then write. I'm very ugly. But in the meeting itself, I actually made notes in my notebook, and I recorded the whole meeting from the notes. I tried to write as fast as possible as individual was speaking. And immediately after the meeting concluded, I left for home. And when I got home, I then typed that whole meeting over from the notebook, so that while it's still fresh in my mind, where I can see I used an abbreviation that only I would know, I would actually just expand the abbreviation and type the minutes over. I have attached that photocopies of my notebook as well to say, but I took photos of the specific notebook in case the notebook ever goes missing. Then I have photos of the notebook as well. And
the photocopies of your notebook are attached as RS23, and the transcribed notes typed are RS23 small a, in bracket A. You confirm that?
That's correct.
Now, and starting from page 96 with RS23. The actual notebook from which you took the pictures that now make up an extra RS23, you still have that notebook?
Correct.
Should the commissioners need to satisfy themselves that this is not your creation post fact? You have the actual notebook?
I still have the notebook, and I forwarded this in WhatsApps as well, so there's even proof to date and timestamp this. There's also, as I wrote to my notebook, it starts at 12 o'clock, and when I ended the meeting, it ended at 15:45 at the end of my notebook of these notes.
Okay. Having then confirmed that, I think we shall not subject the commission to your handwriting, so perhaps we turn to Annexure RS23 bracket A to understand what transpired at that meeting.
The order around the table, and as they are listed, the attendees, it is the order that they sat. I sat with around the table in the boardroom. To my left, and if you see, my name is right at the bottom, just before Mrs. Kasheka's name. The city manager sat at the head of the table. And as you go around from her, as I'm facing the boardroom, it was the city manager, then it was Chief Mapie, then it was, at that stage, Brigadier Mkwanasi, and then Brigadier van der Merwe, Deputy Chief Mazolo, Deputy Chief Twabe, Brigadier Nkosi. It was then, on this side of the table was Mr. Letwaba, Director Brigadier Gina, Brigadier Mashlangu, and Brigadier Besaidenout, and then myself, and then Kasheka from this side. So we sat around the table. The city manager opened it, and she was...
Imagine bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want and watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, and expand in any direction. From tools built for one to platforms ready for many. From passion projects to enterprise-grade systems. Everything is built in and ready to launch. It's a new world of creation, where you can go as far as your imagination takes you. Can you imagine it? Let's make your dream a reality right now.
Lambasting the department and stating stuff that our revenue collection has dropped, it's no tools of trade. She stated that the ammunition tender has been refused because at that stage we had an ammunition tender where the only manufacturer of large-scale ammunition in this country was PMP, which is a subsidiary of Denel Pretoria Metal Pressing Works that makes 9mm ammunition. So we had what we call a Section 110, Section 32 process buying transversal from another State Department process. And this failed because she refused to have it done because she stated Denel is directly involved in state capture and we must go out on an open tender again so that we can do it. And she then stated she appointed Spies, who was me, but there's no changes in the department. This is a year after my appointment. And she carried on lambasting everything, low staff morale. And what is critical about what she's saying and the way she is saying it is that everyone else was then given a chance to speak, except I didn't get a chance. Just before the meeting, Commissioner Mappier spoke to me in the passages as we walked up the stairs, and he said to me, Commissioner Spies, please do not say anything today. Let us just take whatever is said, punishment, whatever is said, and let us go fix it at the back end, because the city manager is out to get you. Don't say anything. So I said to him, Chief, it's fine. I'll keep quiet. I don't want to lambaste anything or bring anything out in the open. We'll fix the department as we go along. So everyone got a chance to vent. But commissioners, when Mkwanasi started to speak, everything that he said was as if he and the city manager had colluded and they were speaking the same speech. And he was making comments about this de facto chiefs. The Chief Mappier is running, is a bad manager and he's not running the department good enough because there's de facto chiefs. And he mentioned that I'm one of the chiefs that runs the department.
Perhaps, apologies, Commissioner Spies, it might be easiest and quickest if we deal with that side of things with reference to the actual transcribed quote-unquote meeting. And for that purpose, I would refer you to page 105. Having listed the attendees and you highlight that the meeting was open, you have at the bottom of that page a recordal of what was stated by JM. And according to your attendees list, you have JM as the director, James Kwanazi.
He was at that stage appointed as the Director of Specialized Services with a brigadier rank.
Okay, perhaps then if you just read that paragraph at the bottom of 105 to about literally the first quarter of 106. Thank you.
Commissioners, if I can just go 2 paragraphs back, because it touches on what later actually happens as well.
Please
it states where the whole punch is through it is that never before have we opened cases against one another and running to IPID to open cases. She can also play the same game and go to IPID to open cases against us. She can do the very same thing we do. Why are we doing it? It must be stopped. Directors are treated differently. One gets overtime while the others don't. And dealing with investigations criminally. There's way too many labor cases. It's clear that we are leaderless. The department is dysfunctional. And then she addressed Chief Mappier. Mappier, what happened? It's your second term. She addresses the chief directly. And then she asked, who wants to say something? And a group of the officers put their hands up. JM then started to say, CM, he addressed her. He doesn't speak to anyone else. He says, the department is dysfunctional. We don't have a chief of police. I work for government, not using my connections. But in this department, only people who have connections are promoted or listened to. and all the connections are from Benoni. No one else in EMPD, and only they are close to the chief. We have another de facto chief of police, Duplessis, that gives instructions as if he's running the department, and then seniors must listen to him, a junior. And if you refuse, then he threatens you defying the chief's instructions. Another chief superintendent, Tipa, also have been arrested and not suspended, and no steps taken against. Then another de facto chief, Spies. I'm not even respecting or saluting him anymore. Said by him is nothing, but he runs the department. Projects, logistics projects never discussed with him or with ops, just to whatever he wishes. Supporting but sit in another land. No talking with ops, who took projects or even precincts. No funds, but before COVID there was funds. He sits at office, 300 people but no space. No toilet, all a mess. Another de facto chief of police, Nisa. He will deal with officers you cannot raise any issues. Cases are open and they do the planning exit strategy. Henny Erasmus are remote controlled by Spies and Mappier. Integrity and standards are hiding in cupboards. Anyone not close will be nailed. I lost respect for them and refused to salute them. Operations, no one is clean in this department. Bricks is coming, nothing is done, no one is signing off. If his name is on it, then no one will sign. Ubaba, burying alive. He went to see Mappier and was forced to sit and wait for 5 hours. As a senior, he had to wait while he was in his office. He only saw him after Deputy Chief Mazzolo arrived.
And that those words you attribute to Brigadier Mkwanazi in the meeting?
Correct.
The meeting then continued, and I see there are different speakers, as your note reflects. Is there anything in particular you'd like to draw the Commission's attention to?
The other speakers had just very, very little to say. They had like 1 or 2 sentences. So Brigadier van der Merwe, for instance, that because she mentioned the ammunition tender, he just submitted to her that we have initiated the tender again, and we have submitted already application to supply chain. We're waiting for a contract number, and we have specifications ready. Then she answered him immediately back to say, but your specifications must be changed so that there can be successful bidders. And he answers back to say, but our specifications are as per legislation and are correct, but it will be submitted as soon as we have a contract number. The main portion, and that is linked to previous discussions already, when we procure ammunition, one of the requirements in our tenders is that the supplier who gets the tender must have a dealership license from the South African Police Service, CFR. Because only people who have a dealership license may deal with ammunition. And what has happened is that companies have been appointed in the past where they don't have a dealership license, they become a middleman. So they effectively will buy the ammunition from someone and then sell it to us. And that is illegal because you are then in possession, even if it's just on paper maybe. But the ammunition must be delivered by us in terms of the tender at our offices. And that transfer of the ammunition and moving of it, the company who provides us must comply and be legal. So there was an instruction from her that we must remove that requirement that anyone can provide the ammunition to us. And the answer was, but we cannot. The law says there must be this in it. And that's what Brigadier van der Merwe then answered her back. Mr. Mazzolo, just everyone you'll see has a very, very little input into it. It was more, there's problems with our structure. The council was busy with a reorganization and the structure was not yet implemented and officers were placed. So a lot of officers were making comments about the structure. Brigadier Nkosi, he is also originating from the so-called Benoni officers. And where this remark comes from is that when the Metro Police were established, or the city of Ekurhuleni was established, it was an amalgamation of 9 existing councils, which is the Benoni, Kempton, Nigel, Boksburg, Brakpan, Springs, Alberton, Germiston, and Edenvale. Those cities were amalgamated into one. And obviously when the Metro Police was started, the traffic officers from those departments were the inauguration members and founding members of the municipal police. And then there's groupings, because officers obviously know one another well, they've been working for years together. So grouping started to happen that there's a group of officers from Benoni, there's a group of officers from Germiston, or a group from Kempton Park. And the illusion here is that the officers from Benoni are being treated specially. And Brigadier Nkosi is also an ex-Benoni officer. So he started to say, CM, the Benoni employees, that Brigadier Julius Makwana, and immediately she cut him off. Stop, don't speak about what anyone here has said. It's if you want to say anything else. So everyone was, it's as if the meeting was done so that Julius Makonasi can speak, she can speak, the rest was just there as ad lib for a short paragraph and that. And
before you move ahead, I think we have a sense of who the main drivers of the meeting were. And for whatever reason, others did not or could not speak. I would like to draw your attention to at page 107. There is a conversation there, or there is an input being made by OB, and going back to the list of attendees, you have OB listed as Director O. Bezuidenhout, correct?
Bezuidenhout, correct.
I mean, I tried to read what you have recorded here, and perhaps you are best placed to explain it to us all. It starts at about midway of page 107, where OB says, ma'am, just two things. Disciplinary matters, hearings, outcomes are dismissed by 90%. That is going to deal with WOA roadblocks and the like. Would you like to expound on that, please?
The disciplinary matters hearings that he refers there to is that a lot of our officers, the disciplinary hearings take place, but because we are working under the SALGBC SALGA disciplinary hearing process, the chairpersons are not from the Metro Police. They could be from any department. And the officers are treated as if they're normal council employees. And then if the officer committed, for instance, it could be a matter of bribery, where the officer stopped an offender and he took money from him, and then there's a whole disciplinary case that happened, is that the officer it's possible that he would be dismissed by the chairperson, but then that officer will run to the Labour Court and he will be reinstated because HR will not contest the matter and the officer will be reinstated. It also happens when the chairpersons, when an officer, for instance, it's a simple incident that took place during COVID. There was obviously lockdown level 5 and 4 where no one was allowed to travel or move in the country except if you have certificates. And the police were obviously, when we were on duty, we used to work. So at one of our roadblocks, one of our off-duty officers drive into the roadblock. And he was then stopped, and as he was stopped, he jumped out and he ran away and he left the car behind. But because he was stupid, the officers know him. He works with them. They went to his house and that. But in the meantime, it was discovered that the vehicle he was traveling in was a stolen vehicle. And subsequently, he was then charged criminally, and he was found guilty for contravening the COVID regulations. The stolen vehicle portion, he wasn't found guilty eventually, because I think there's a challenge with the South African Police Service not cancelling the vehicle when it was recovered, or it was his neighbour's vehicle and he just borrowed it, and that he wasn't found criminally guilty for that. But in his disciplinary hearing, the ruling was that he be docked unpaid for 10 days. And in that unpaid, it included the public holiday as well. So he even got unpaid for a holiday as well. So it's things like that that Brigadier Bezuidenhout is addressing, is to say that our officers, the disciplinary process inside is broken because it's not done by us, it's done by HR, and HR appoints presiding and presenting officers, and those doesn't understand the policing environment, where we say if a police officer comes on duty drunk, to us it's extremely serious, because he drives a vehicle, he's in charge of a firearm, he can kill people while he's drunk. But to HR, it's just another employee who is drunk who must go to EAP and be treated completely different. So that is what Okut Bezuidenhout is referring there. The low morale that he's referring to is that there was, for a long period of time, we were not allowed to appoint anyone because of the structural changes between 2015 and 2019, and no structure has yet been approved, and we're implementing a new structure, and the existing people must first be placed in the structure. So it happened that due to natural attrition, is that the supervisory level, which is the more senior older people, would start to actually vacate the premises or vacate the service. is that we have a large amount of officers acting as supervisors and there's no real appointed. The WAs, it stands for warrant of arrest. We have a warrant of arrest units and we do warrant of arrest operations with roadblocks where the printed warrant of arrest and digital versions of that we would stop public during a normal roadblock and we will verify the existence of warrant of arrest. That is what he's discussing it. And then the Draeger, when he speaks about the Draeger must be calibrated or not, we received a donation from the South African breweries where they donated Draegers to us over and above our Draeger, but there was because it was their Draeger to be used and our Draeger, there was a discrepancy about who must calibrate them. It's not ours, it's theirs. And then eventually it changed into where a formal donation was made and a formal handover process where council adopted and then assetized and accepted the Draegers, and then that is what the Draeger references to that.
Okay, now so I understand, this Draeger you reference here, is that a breathalyzer tool to measure alcohol content in one's body?
That's correct. When you do drunken driving, anti-drunken driving operations at roadblocks, it's an evidentiary breathalyzer machine.
So, and one of them is donated to EMPD by SAB? South African Breweries. Okay.
Yes.
You indicated earlier, I think when you started this conversation, that you didn't get an opportunity to speak in this meeting.
Correct. It's actually.
But if you look at page 107 there, after dealing with the Draeger, it reads CM, I take it that's the city manager. Rivo, no, you do not have your hand up, and then you say, no, ma'am, I did not have my hand up, and then you speak thereafter.
Because at that stage, she mentioned in the beginning that we've got a loss of revenue or a lack of revenue, and my division, auxiliary services, deal with fine administration and municipal courts. We are the ones that report the revenue. So it's not that we can generate revenue, we're the ones that report it, because the officers on the road is the ones who write the notices and the fines, but we are the ones that capture it and actually deposit the money, so we can report back on the revenue. So I wanted to address what she said in the beginning about the revenue. And I started to speak, but then she says, no, Revo, you did not have your hand up, because initially she only stated who wants to say something and that. And then the chief interjected to say, because I did acknowledge, I didn't have my hand up, but she made a remark after everyone was given the opportunity that I need to address now. And then chief answered her to say, CM, I just want Revo to explain more about the fines portion. And then he says, Chief, no, he did not have his hands up. Revo, do you have anything to say? And I said, just 2 clarifications. And then she immediately interjected again to say, you're not dealing with what I said around the table. Only my issues I said in the beginning. And then I said, it's the 2 issues you speak with, what you said initially. The one matter where you spoke about the one director getting overtime and the others not. This is at that moment, it's a highly contentious issue in the department. Because there are 8 directors, of which Brigadier van der Merwe is he's in logistics reporting to me, and the other directors is in operations. The chief of police issued an instruction linked to capacity about saving cost earlier in the year, where we were supposed to cut 50% of our expenditure budget, and overtime was cut and down to a maximum of, for admin staff, 32 hours, and for operational officers to 40 hours. And in that same instruction, the overtime for brigadiers was stopped completely because they were not supposed to respond to it. They're on standby and they're dealing with it. So overtime was stopped for them completely. They're also earning way above the threshold, the Labour Relations Act or the Basic Conditions of Employment Act threshold. So they're not really even entitled to overtime. But we did pay them overtime if they work operations or anything. And we use an electronic capturing system for some, and some use a manual paper feed. The E-Left is the system that is being captured on. And Brigadier van der Merwe captured time due, meaning that he won't get paid overtime, but he will take time due in lieu of the overtime that he have worked. So he captured on his electronic system, he captured his time due. At the end of May, the payroll system paid him the overtime. And then he went back to the payroll to say, you made a mistake, you paid me overtime, I worked and it was stopped the overtime. So the payroll then agreed that the next following month, they will subtract the overtime paid to him again, and then reinstated on his leave side as time due. In this period, this is now happening. And Brigadier Mkonasi then went to the city manager and he lodged the grievance about the overtime. And Kemi Bihari was the chairperson of this grievance hearing. And Kemi Bihari then made a ruling, even though Bihari acknowledged that the pay office has already agreed that they will reverse the payment to Van der Merwe. Bihari still made a ruling to say that based on the fact that one brigadier is getting overtime, the rest must immediately get overtime. And then their overtime was reinstated. So this is my explanation to that matter, where they addressed the overtime of that, and which she mentioned in the beginning. And I stated it exactly as that as well, is that the lady second in charge of the payroll, Helena Hatang, they were discussing it on emails, and there's proof to this effect, and Helena answered him back to say it will be recovered. Don't go and, there was actually a joke, don't go and spend it, it will be recovered from him. And it was eventually recovered from him. But then, because of this outcome of Bihari, in his grievance, he stated that the brigadiers at this very high salary can get overtime again, and since then they work and get paid overtime again. And
before you proceed, if you just put your finger there, Chair, I see it is 11 o'clock. Might this be an appropriate time to take your tea adjournment? And when we come back, please remember, Commissioner, that's where we pick up the conversation. Thank you.
Let us adjourn and resume at 11:20.
11:20. Thank you, Chair. Good day. Good day. The hearings are starting, shall we? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Spies, when we broke for tea, we're still dealing with your transcribed minute, quote unquote, at RS 23 in parenthesis A. We are now at page 107, and you have highlighted the aspects you sought to address in that meeting with the city manager. I would like to refer you to the bottom of that page 107. There is a conversation that, or there are some contributions made in this meeting. If you could take it up to first 1/3 part of 108. Thank you.
Commissioners, it's still dealing with the overtime portion that I discussed, and the city manager answered me to say, but that's not what the chief said yesterday. I then answered her to say, ma'am, that is what happened. We have all the proof and confirmation from the pay office. She then addressed Linda. Linda is Kasheka. That cannot be left, it is on purpose. And she then answered, yes, ma'am, it's not an error. I then answered to say, ma'am, I then support the chief in his earlier submission that all the issues raised be addressed and submitted to you via formal memo. She immediately answered the chief and Chief, see, Revo is running the department. He's actually telling you what to do. I interjected and I said, no, ma'am. I stated I am supporting the chief and that he will issue a letter to you. And then she said, you are not telling the chief what he must do. Deputy Chief Mapie, Kwabe and Mzolo is quiet. Revo is the only one supporting the chief. Clearly the department is run by Revo Spies. Proof in him responding in writing. Doesn't have resources, cut across, affect all departments. The city have very little budget. Everyone must prioritize order and place revenue first. Linda, do you have something to say?
We can stop there. So I think we have about the gist of what the meeting, how the meeting went. I would like to direct you to the bottom of page 108, which are the city manager's closing remarks of that meeting, where she starts, the airport is important.
The city manager stated that the airport is important and we shall partake in the bricks. Very little budget, you shall give uniform and firearms and give them the tools of trade. Chief, I can see you are overwhelmed and therefore you shall take leave. Get debriefed, rest and come back neutral and objective. Director North, that's referring to Brigadier Gina, stated she is depressed and this is wrong. I am normally not harsh, but I'm gutful. You only have one woman and Hamilton is prioritized. Is he related to the chief? He gets first choice. And Mazolo, you must act like a real chief, not like a nurse. This is a military environment. I am stronger than you, always speaking about ulcers and body has problems. You must stop being so weak. Stop discriminating against hard workers. Mapie, you shall take special leave and the rest shall report through Mazolo. If you are afraid, fragile or important, go to him for solution. The team must be united like brothers and sisters, a very close scrutiny. And then the meeting adjourned at 15:45.
Perhaps instead of important, that's probably important. In context, in the context of everything else. IMPOTENT, or was it really important?
Commissioner, I'm not at the correct place because my notes...
If you go to your last sentence in that, no, your third actually, second line from the bottom where you say, you quote it as saying, if you are afraid / fragile. Do you see where I'm reading? On page 108, Commissioner.
I am, so Commissioner, it is based from my notes. and it is typed as my notes are, and my note spelling and this spelling, and sometimes when I wrote, so I typed, there was a full stop, important, / come to them for solution. So it was most probably in the context of at that moment in time, she said, if it is something important, go to them for solution. So it's going to Mazzolo.
I get it.
And that.
I get it.
So it was, I unfortunately don't have shorthand, but it was from a forcefully rushed writing then just typing exactly what I had actually noted.
Thank you. I was reading it in combination or conjointly with the afraid and fragile. No,
Yeah.
thank you. I understand, Commissioner.
It is on my notes on page 104 at the fourth last line. Report through Mazzolo, full stop. Then afraid / fragile, full stop. Important / come to them for solution, full stop. So it's in that basis. It's not all as I typed.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And you say at that, with those remarks and her decision to place Chief Mapie on special leave, the meeting adjourned at 15:45.
Correct.
If you turn now to paragraph 58 of your statement at page 25.
Sorry, Ms. Law, before
Yes,
you
ma'am.
do that, Commissioner, in that same page 108, if you go up, there's just up above what you've read, there's another biggish paragraph which says CM, where she speaks, and of particular interest is where she seems to give instructions about reporting lines. Do you want to read that paragraph? It is very clear from all the communication.
The city manager stated it's very clear from all that communication, and low morale is an issue. It's clear that the department is dysfunctional. And the typo, I must go back to my notes to see what exactly. There are Reno communication and no transparency, and as KM, which is Brigadier Claymore Mashlango, stated, lead by fear. No revenue is forthcoming. I therefore have decided, Mapie, you shall take special leave with immediate effect, and Mazzolo shall act in your place so that you can clear your head, rest, and come back neutral and with no biasness. The whole team shall report to me, but I do not deal with juniors, so you shall deal through Mazzolo with me. I want the BRIC plans to be submitted to me with immediate effect so that it can be approved today still. And then Mazzolo answered, ma'am, it has been signed off.
Yes, that part that says the whole team shall report to me, what did it mean, and in fact, what became the practice after this?
It was as if she said that everyone sitting around the table will report to her. But then she corrected it to say that because she doesn't deal with juniors as if we are juniors, and that Mazzolo will then act as the acting chief of police, and we will report through him. And the BRICS, what she was referring to BRICS is obviously there was a BRICS conference going on at that stage, and there was an operational plan that had to be signed off and approved within the department in the normal processes. And then when she mentioned that that plan must be signed off by her, which is not correct, the plan is signed off by the chief of police, is when Goodman Mazzolo has answered, it has been signed off, and then Chief Mapie has also said it has been signed off and approved already.
Thank you. Now, looking at this minute, your note rather, of what transpired at the meeting, it seems to have discussed quite a number of important issues. Were you provided with an agenda for this meeting of what was going to be discussed in advance of the meeting?
No, Commissioner. So as I stated earlier, is that we were telephonically instructed that we shall report to the city manager's office immediately. And when we arrived, after all our instruments and everything's been confiscated, we were ushered into the boardroom. And as soon as everyone sat down, she came into the boardroom from her office. There was no agenda. There was nothing said what it is about or anything at all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
And this is the meeting then, as indicated, of the 17th of August, 2023.
It's correct, Commissioner.
Was this meeting ever formally recorded? Is there a minute of this meeting?
No, it's only my notes. Nothing else exists and no one else. I took the notes as we were sitting there, and there's no formal recording of this meeting at all except my notes.
I turn then to paragraph 58 of your statement. At 58 and 59, you deal with the aftermath of this meeting. Could you take the commissioners through that?
The meeting, as I stated, it ended when Commissioner Mapie made a suggestion that we as a team go back and we draft a strategic plan and a turnaround, and we submit it to her in writing. And I then obviously answered and says, I support the chief and that we do it in this manner so that we can submit a formal turnaround strategy to her. And she cut me short, and she then immediately instructed Chief Mapie that he's suspended and he's placed on special leave, and that Mazolo will act in his stead. The following day, which is the Friday, we heard through the grapevine, and we also saw that on the WhatsApp groups, that the Chief of Police has been formally suspended. And I received on the Friday, during the weekend, that Saturday morning, I received an email wherein Commissioner Mazolo was appointed as the acting Chief of Police from the 19th of August till I think the 20th of September, for a whole month that he was appointed as the acting Chief of Police.
You have it reflected at paragraph 59, over leaf at 25, 19 August to 2nd October 2023.
Correct. He was appointed then to act in Chief Mapie's leave. Later during the following week thereafter, there started to be Colonel Duplessis, who's the staff officer of the chief, started to try to correct the situation because we have an electronic system of attendance and leave management system called eLeft, and he attempted to assist to capture the chief's leave, because it was then stated at the back end, no, the chief took sick leave, and we tried to then say, but then we need to have a sick note, because if you capture sick leave for a longer period, the system automatically forces you, if it's longer than 2.5 days, to have a sick note attached, otherwise it will not allow you to do it. So in this process, when we tried to capture it, Colonel Duplessis said, but he cannot capture it. He cannot get into the eLeft to capture it. He discussed it with the city manager's secretary, Ms. Linda Nyker, and she said to him, just leave it alone. It will be sorted at the back end and you don't have to worry further about it. And that's where it stopped, where it's as if it was now suddenly he's on normal leave and the city will at the back end correct the system. But according to my knowledge, he was suspended. And at the later stage, we heard through the grapevine and through council, where council answers was provided to council, is that it was recorded that the city manager said he's placed on special leave.
You say right at the, I'm sorry, the very last sentence of paragraph 58, you say that what was on WhatsApp was initiated by Brigadier Julius Mkwanazi. Did you yourself receive a WhatsApp text from Brigadier Mkwanazi in this regard?
No, Commissioner, I'm not part of that operational groups, but my staff actually came to me and they showed me this WhatsApps to say, have you seen this rumors going around? And my answer to them was, ignore the rumors and stay off the chats. Don't get involved in these chats.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You reference for record purposes RS 24 at page 109 of your annexed file. And that you say is the letter appointing Commissioner Mzolo to act for the period 19 August 2023 to 2nd October 2023 as the Chief of Police of EMPD.
That's correct. It's on page 109, the acting letter.
So effectively, based on your testimony and the letter of appointment to Commissioner Mzolo, at this juncture, following this meeting, the chief was placed on special leave for a period of about 6 weeks.
Correct, Commissioners.
And the basis is as articulated by the city manager, based on your note, which is that he's being placed on special leave with immediate effect, and Mzolo shall act in your place so that you can clear your head, rest, and come back neutral and with no biasness, as reflected in page 108.
Correct, Commissioners.
That's an illness that required him to be on special leave for 6 weeks.
According to the city manager, yes.
Thank you. From paragraph 60, you move on to a different issue. No, before I do so, can I refer us to page 110? This is following the letter of appointment for Commissioner Mzolo to act as Chief of Police. At 110, it's application for leave of absence. Can you talk us through this document that you have attached?
This is a paper process, application for leave of absence. So there's two methods. The one is the electronic method, and then if you don't have access to electronic method, you can also do a paper manual process. This is the normal approved application for leave. On the top left portion is the Chief of Police details, Mapiyeye Isaac Jabulani, and then his employee number, and then his signature, and its date of application is 18/8/2023. And then it states from and to, and then the dates is 23/08/19 to 23/10/02, which is 30 days. And at the bottom, it is under special point 5, it's listed as special leave, and it just say other, and there's a cross made there. And then at D, the approval, at the approved portion is a tick mark, the signature of the city manager, and then a handwritten date of 18/3/2023.
So a reading of this document would suggest that, because I see it's got space under A, personal particulars, for signature by the affected employee, right?
Correct.
And based on what we have previously seen, that looks like Chief Mapieye's signature.
Correct, Commissioner.
So this document would suggest that Chief Mapiyeye actually on the 18th of March 2023, a day after the meeting, he personally applied for leave of absence for a period of 30 working days.
This is what this document indicates, even though at the leave period, there are mistakes there, because we work in terms of work days. The 19th was a Saturday, and the 20th was a Saturday, so the leave officially would have actually started on Monday, the 21st. And I don't know the exact date of the 2nd, but leave would normally be work days. It won't be weekends because of your employment contract.
Ms. Sildo, you said March, it was August.
August, yes. Thank you, Chair. It was August 08, that's correct. So the correction that the Chair makes is that the meeting was held on the 17th of August, 2023. Correct. This application for leave of absence is dated, at least it's signed, by the supervisor. And who is the supervisor in this case?
It is the city manager, Mashazi.
So the city manager signs it on the 18th, the next day, on the 8th.
That is what this letter states, yes.
And you confirm that a reading of this document would suggest that the Chief of Police, on his own volition, applied for leave of absence?
That is what this letter would purport, is that the Chief signed the letter to apply for leave.
If the Chief did not, if you do know, did not need leave, did not want to go on leave, do you have an idea why he signed this document?
Out of fear and out of retribution. The city manager directly reports to the city manager, and she's actually chasing him away and forces him to sign this.
And do you know who determined that 30 days is the period for which he shall be on leave? Does the chief complete this form? Does it come to him completed? How normally does it happen?
This letter was typed and completed on behalf of him. With all respect to the chief himself, he doesn't really use a computer, and he doesn't have access to this form, so this form has been completed on behalf of him by someone, I don't know who, and it was then just submitted to him for signature.
All he had to do then was append his signature to a document that has already been completed.
Correct.
And he did go on this leave for that period from the 18th of
Correct.
August.
He was away from the office for that period, and Commissioner Mazzola was acting as the Chief of Police in that period.
Okay.
And Commissioner, this would have been paid leave?
Correct, Commissioner.
Where it is given to him by the city manager who decided he must take leave, and then he sits at home and he gets paid for it, even though he didn't ask for leave.
Correct, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Okay, we then move to the next issue from paragraph 60 of your statement at page 25. And you deal here with communication from a certain quote unquote big can you deal with that communication? Thank you.
I can, Commissioners, but I must apologize up front if I pronounce it in a Malungu manner, because it's...
Not even I can take chances there, because I don't know what language this is.
This was on a weekend. I did receive on that Sunday evening an email from an email address, which is me. And this email was sent to Jeff Weeks at 24.com, and I was just a CC recipient in this, and it was, the CC recipients was Linda Kasheka, Tolani and Nisa, Imogen Mashazi, myself, Chief Mapie, and Kemi Bihari as the head. And then there was a title in this email of favoritism, corruption. And I ignored that email completely. It came in on a Sunday and I looked at it and I just ignored it. I didn't touch anything or work with it. The same sender sent then on the September of 2nd, 2023 at 15:14 to the same group of people, but this time they added a person with the name of Vukile Mlongwana with a list of attachments.
Before we move on to the other annexure where now Vukile Mlongwana is added, can we deal with the actual email that you received? And that is RS25 appearing at page 111 of the annexure file.
Correct, Commissioner. It's on page 111. It's an email which is dated 20 August 2023, 20:43 the evening. The list of people that I've already mentioned.
Yes.
And then the email state, "Hi Jeff, I am reporting on the basis of anonymity. Some time ago, you reported a very serious incident to one of our colleagues about one security firm called Cat VIP. The incident took place some time ago earlier on during the year. My understanding is that a certain law firm was appointed to oversee the matter by charging Julius Mkwanazi. According to a document in my possession, Julius Mkwanazi was charged and his hearing was supposed to sit sometime in July this year. However, this did not happen. And as such, Julius Mkwanazi has since not faced a disciplinary hearing. I suspect that the law firm that was appointed could have received something in return. Please report this to the media and shame the municipality for protecting corrupt officials. Please be careful, however, because Julius is highly connected with Madlanga, who is also a suspect in the murder of Dukaran Barbita, together with the CFO. My case of unfair labor practice has also not been solved by Ekurhuleni. Please follow up on this, as we need people like you to clamp down on corruption. I am told from reliable sources that Imogen Mashazi, who is the city manager, is the one who is protecting Julius Mkwanazi."
And as you correctly point out, it does indicate that you are one of the recipients. As at the 20th of August, you said you ignored this email, but as at the 20th of August and since then, were you able to establish the identity of the sender of this email? Because this person speaks of an unfair labor, his own unfair labor practice has also not been resolved, has also not been solved by Ekurhuleni. So am I reading it correctly to interpret it to mean that this is somebody who was either an employee of or is, at the time of writing this email, an employee of the city, whether EMPD or other department?
I do not know the author or the sender of this, and just by referencing unfair labor practice, there's more than 24,000 employees who could have unfair labor practice there. It is not known. I must indicate that the Bihari appointed a company with a forensic firm.
Before we get there, so my question was, you never got to establish the identity of this person?
To date, it's not known who this is. Even I don't know where it comes from.
Okay, you had already started dealing with almost like the same email. You said this time it included Vukile Mlongwana. You deal with that at paragraph 61 of your statement. And you attach another email of a later date of the 2nd of September 2023 as RS26 starting at 112. And you wanted to speak to this particular email.
Correct. This email, it's very similar. I don't know who this Vukile Mlangwana is. Even to date, I don't know who it is, but it was added to the email. It's the only difference between the two. And then there was a much longer explanation of it. And I don't know if I must read it into record as well.
No, it's not necessary. Thank you.
It's a much longer email, which now included names of law firm Madlanga. It included Henny Erasmus, who is the one who compiled the report, Kasheka that signed and authorized. So explain the problem. And then it goes further to say, Kemi Bihari did not call Madlanga an advocate. So he adds a lot of stories and a lot of background about judgments, and at the last paragraph he ends up to say that the Labour Court, Imogen Mashasi, was found guilty of contempt of court for protecting an employee who was dismissed. And there's also a case on the next page which deals with Zamisa Marcus, an advocate, sexually harassed by a boss, Lifu Makoba, and nothing happened, and white woman was arrested. So it's a long email again, just rambling on about things that is happening on the sideline in the city at that stage.
Did you know of any of the issues that are addressed here? Did you have any personal knowledge of these issues and what this email was talking about?
Yes, there is, for instance, immediately after these emails, the directive that Leonard Kasheka and Kemi Bihari, so there was originally a delegation in terms of the SLGBC disciplinary agreement where the city manager, as the accounting officer, is the authorized representative, and she delegated this matter to Kolani and Nisa, the divisional head of ER. But immediately after these emails, she issued a new instruction where nothing in the city of Ekurhuleni can now be done if there's any misconduct allegations. Everything must be submitted to Bihari as the head of legal, so that he can make a determination if there should be investigation or not. So, and Nisa's powers and everything was immediately revoked as well, so that he's not involved in this process at all anymore, even though that has been the standard and how it's been dealt with for history. The other people that they mention, I know about it in the sense that there's rumors that run in the department. So I definitely heard that Advocate Markey there was complaints about sexual harassment. I know about that. I know that there's other officers that have been harassed, and that. So I know about the rumors, but I don't have the direct facts about all of them.
Thank you for that. You moved then to paragraph 62, from paragraph 62 and 63. There you deal with the IPID negative recommendation, and I think we've dealt with this recommendation by IPID before when we were dealing with IPID matters. You recall that?
Correct, Commissioners. It is where IPID, after their initial investigation into the so-called blue light saga and the registration of the vehicles, they've concluded their initial investigation and they issued what we call a negative recommendation. IPID, every case that IPID investigate, they will issue one, either positive recommendation or negative. A positive recommendation is good for us as municipal police. It means the officer has done his work correctly and they don't find any wrongdoing. A negative recommendation is when they found something and we as a city must do something depending on what they recommended. So that was then, and it was part of this it was part of that attached to it, where someone has got access to it. And I stated earlier in my testimony as well as this negative recommendation was actually served on the then mayor in Gondwana, and nothing has been done with this, and this is where the matter is. So I know that this was served and nothing was done with this matter at all, and no feedback was given to IPID at all.
We move then to your paragraph 64, where you deal with.
Can I just ask? In your experience and maybe practice, if material is served on the mayor, such as in this case, as you say, ordinarily, what then happens with that? What does the mayor do with that?
The city of Ekurhuleni has got an executive mayor, meaning that he's overall in charge, and his direct report to him would be the city manager. She's accounted to the mayor. So if the mayor is served with anything, he will immediately hand it over to the city manager's accounting officer to deal with it.
In your expectation, this negative outcome or report would have been served on the, rather was served on the mayor, but in your expectation, he would then have handed it over to the
Correct.
city manager to deal with.
Correct. The mayor would hand anything that is in his official capacity given to him, anything related to the city, the mayor will hand it over because he's the executive mayor, but as a political head, and the city manager is the official appointed to deal with the council as the accounting officer. So the mayor would hand anything over to the accounting officer, which is the city manager.
Is there a scenario, at least, that you can envision where the mayor the councillor Ngotwana may well, rather the city manager in fact, may well say, I never received this from the mayor. I don't know anything about this IPID negative report or negative outcome.
Based on what, it's possible that you can try to infer it, but this negative recommendation eventually makes its way into even the legal department with Bihari, and it makes its way to the HR, HOD. So the mayor itself wouldn't deal with the lower levels. The only way it could get there is through the city manager to the heads of Department of Legal and Human Resources.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. We move on then to your paragraphs 64 and 65. You had earlier sought to highlight the fact that Advocate Bihari had appointed a firm with the name the forensic firm. Do you see where I'm reading from?
Correct.
And then you issue with some of the conclusions drawn in that report, and you highlight at least two in paragraph 64 and 65. Can you deal with that aspect of your evidence?
At that stage, the councillors in council already had lots of questions about what happens and have the investigation against Brigadier or Commissioner Mkwanasi, has it been concluded and what is the status of it? And the answers from the city manager and from HR and from legal was that they have appointed a forensic firm to investigate this matter. That was the answer they gave to council. However, when this report surfaced and the firm was then appointed, and if you look at the report itself, the forensic firm that was appointed has been appointed with a specific mandate, which they even state in their mandate. They've been appointed to find the whistleblowers who released Mkwanasi's pay number into the public domain. They weren't investigating anything about Mkwanasi. They were investigating the whistleblowers. That's clearly their mandate. Based on the emails of this big key emails, they were investigating that. In their report, as you go through it, they even state that they accessed our emails at the back end, which is obviously possible if you have, it's official email, so they can have access to my history of my emails. And they then came to a conclusion at their recommendations that they cannot find any link between any official or anyone from Ekurhuleni between us and that email, which makes sense to me because none of us, I think, would have done it in any case. So they make this remark and the recommendation. They cannot find any link to anyone, and therefore they cannot take further steps. And then their last or second last remark that they make is that they suggest that Commissioner Mkwanasi must lodge a complaint against his seniors and take official steps against his seniors for releasing his pay number in the public domain, which is absolutely nonsensical. If you have to find whistleblowers and you then come with a report back and say, we've done this investigation into whistleblowers, we cannot find the whistleblower, we cannot link this, and then you make a remark that everyone in this report who's a senior to him must be reported and he must lodge a complaint against us for releasing, when it was found that none of us released it. So that to me is absolutely nonsensical, and it shows very clearly how deep the protection is going, that they even go with a false mandate to appoint a forensic firm to actually investigate a wrong angle and then come back and say nobody's been cleared. In the meantime, they just couldn't find the whistleblowers.
Thank you. And that report you have attached to your papers as RS27. I see it is dated June 2024. On the front page of the report, bottom left, it's got a date, 20th June 2024.
Correct, Commissioner.
That's the date of the report.
That's the date on the report, but I only got hold of this later after it was served at the council.
And do you know, on this date, you were still in the employ of EMPD. Do you know what became of the recommendations of the report? Were they acted upon? Or what steps were taken, particularly insofar as what you highlight at paragraph 64 and 65 are concerned? Do you know if any of those steps were taken?
I do not know if any of these steps have been taken at all.
Okay.
Because it's nonsensical. I don't know how you implement nonsensical findings and recommendations. There's specifically where, if you, for instance, look at the page 157, which is the page of their recommendations.
Yes.
The very first sentence is, disciplinary action cannot be recommended against a person using the pseudonym Biki, as the investigation team was unable to establish his or her identity. They couldn't do anything against Nisa because he's no longer an employee. And then they go with Madlanga and that they think there's wasteful and fruitful expenditure for that.
Fruitless, rather.
Fruitless and wasteful expenditure because Madlanga was paid 45,000 Rand and to act as the legal representative, which was subsequently withdrawn by the city, which I don't know that it was withdrawn by the city at all. And then the last sentence, 14.4 at the bottom, is that Mkonasi should lodge a formal complaint against the EMPD senior officials who were responsible for the breaches identified in this report. We also, on the next page, there's findings that they make that the city must change their method of, because there's no policy or anything related to donations or anything like that. And it's part of my observation is that they clearly doesn't know the city. The city have got a gift and donations policy. There is legislation in the MFMA Act. There's, in all of this matters, there is policies. There is a approved DPCA, which is a signed disciplinary agreement between us. And they state that the charges against him was not in line with that because they were looking at registration and they say but false registration or uttering, but that is not the charges that was levied against him. The charges is for dishonesty, for misconduct, which is dealt with. The main charges is dishonesty and misconduct, and that's what the disciplinary agreement made provision for. The fact that the vehicle is registered falsely and incorrectly, or the fact that what Brigadier Mkonasi or Commissioner Mkonasi did at that specific stage is the micro detail of the charge. But the contravention of the disciplinary agreement is at a higher level of misconduct, of dishonesty. That is what the charges are, and that is contained in the. So this is, to me, it's a nonsensical report that was just created to make it as if there was someone appointed to absolve him from this matter.
Thank you. We now turn to paragraph 66. We had to go deal with the forensic firm report, much as it's dated June 2024, to complete that conversation around the Bigly emails. From your paragraph 66, you go back to the events of November.
Advocacy law, the date of 20 June 2024 must be an error because the two emails we are referring to were dated August and September.
Of 2023?
Yes. Oh, so this is 2024.
Yes, the report comes now in 2024, almost about a year later.
Correct.
But then if we go to paragraph 66, you step back again to November 2023, which is following the order of events. We just had to deal with the report dated much later to complete that whole issue regarding the big emails. Do you see where we are, Commissioner Spies?
Correct.
If you could then, yes, Commissioner.
Can I just check this with you? Are you saying you're still coming to deal with the report?
No, we had dealt with it. If the Commissioner has got questions.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I
please.
just want to clarify something. Commissioner, I ask this really because things do seem to have been very dynamic, if you like. that decisions were made on the spot. Now we do things differently. And so my question comes against that kind of background. At that page 157 that you were looking at, and this is still the report, under the heading recommendations, 14.2.1, it reads breaching section 774 of the SALGBC DPCA by appointing Majang to act as legal representatives for the city in the Mkhwanazi matter without having obtained the prior consent of Mkhwanazi to do so. And then something similar in the next paragraph, but now with reference to a different statute, breaching section 78(1)A, B, C, and E of the MFMA by appointing Majang to act as a legal representative for the city in the Mkhwanazi matter without having obtained the prior consent of Mkhwanazi to do so. Now, the first question is, was there such a policy, procedure, or practice in the city that when employees are subjected to disciplinary action, their consent would be sought before people are appointed to process those disciplinary processes?
Commissioner, the SALGBC DPCA is the disciplinary agreement that is applicable to all local government employees. And it has a clause, 7.74, which states that when you take disciplinary action against an employee, the employee can be represented by a colleague or anyone from his organized labor or a colleague. And the city will then be appointed someone from the Human Resource Department or from the city itself. And then there is a clause that states that, however, if the city decides to appoint outside lawyers firm, then it shall consult with the employee. It is there as a clause. However, in the history of the city, it has in the past always been that when matters are of a forensic nature or a complicated nature that cannot be dealt with by internal employees because of the nature of the case, then outside lawyers firms, which is on a panel and appointed, will be selected and they will then be appointed. So up to that date, it's always been that if it's a complicated matter, then it will be outside presiding officers and that. And the word consult does not mean ask permission. It means the word of consult. So consult in this case was most probably, and maybe Mr. Nisa can answer that better because he's the one who actually did it. But from my experience, always when there was a complicated matter which involved highly technical or forensic matters, it was presiding and presenting officers only were appointed from outside and not from inside.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, Commissioner Baloyi. Just for the record, Mr. Ngiza is the next witness, and he will go into deeper, in more detail around these labor and HR-related matters. Thank you. Commissioner Spies, we're now at paragraph 66, and we are back to the date of around November 2023. If you could just briefly deal with the contents of 66 and 67.
In the early May, because I'm the Deputy Chief Auxiliary and Support Services and HR falls under me, in the beginning of May, I issued a memorandum to the Chief of Police to state that Commissioner Mazolo's fixed-term contract will end November 2023, and we must initiate the process to start with HR to fill the position because it takes long to fill positions. And I informed the Chief of Police. Subsequently, the Chief of Police sent that same through to HR to start the process. In the middle of that period, here by August, September, I don't know the exact date there was an attempt from HR to extend Commissioner Mazolo's contract from 30 November 23 when it would end. They attempted to extend his contract for a longer period, which the Chief of Police then issued a letter to them saying he objected to that and they should proceed with the process to fill it. And then suddenly, the first week of December, Brigadier Mkhwanazi was appointed as the Deputy Chief of Police, Deputy Commissioner in the place of Mr. Mazolo, who then retired and went on pension and wasn't employed anymore. This this is very strange. And the reason I say it's very strange is that the Chief of Police, in terms of Section 64, appoint you and confer the rank upon you. In my whole career, and I've been in every single rank from constable right up to where I am now, every time when I've been promoted, the Chief of Police, together with the deputies, would confer the rank. It's a small, intimate ceremony where the Chief will actually take off. On the one side, the Chief will take off your rank insignia and then place the new rank insignia on top of, and then on the other side, the other deputies would do it, and if the Chief alone there. So this conferment of rank is a formal ceremony where there's then a picture stake and it's released, a media release, and everything is done. This was never done. I, as the Deputy Chief, Senior Deputy Chief by then, because I'm already in that post, we saw and heard Commissioner Mkonasi when we see pictures of him and when we see on roadblocks and that. And it is something which, and I don't know if I should mention it, about the way he wears his ranks, which it's a joke in the fraternity.
Before you do so, you state at paragraph 67, you have testified to the fact that the Chief of Police, in this instance, Chief Mapie, did not confer on him as a standard protocol.
Correct.
The ranks.
Correct.
Then you say, Brigadier Mkwanazi reportedly went directly to the stores to obtain his new rank insignia himself.
Correct.
Can you talk to that?
The process normally would be, because I'm in charge of the stores as well, so if there's any conferment of rank, the Chief of Police will contact me directly, or his staff officer, Colonel Du Plessis, will contact me and says, we're going to do a ceremony tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Can you please arrange that the following 15 people were appointed? Can you please make sure that the stores make provision of the ranks? Because it's not only the insignia, it's insignia, georgettes, and a cap. Because as you go higher in the rank, your rank is depicted on the peak of your cap as well. So the Chief's office would then notify me to say there's going to be a conferment ceremony the next morning at 9 o'clock. And can you please make sure that the stores pack the ranks and everything together already? And I would then instruct the stores, bring it to my office, and then I would go the next morning to the conferment ceremony and I will bring the actual rank. Sometimes I get surprised where we're already in the meeting and the Chief would say, can we please arrange it immediately because there isn't other time? But I will then contact the stores and says, bring the ranks and everything to me now. And we will then have this conferment ceremony. However, with him it didn't happen that way. He went directly to the stores and he forcefully told the staff, who's clerks, here's my appointment letter, I've been appointed, give me my ranks. He hasn't gone through the conferment process at all.
And you did make the point earlier that to date he wears his uniform insignia incorrectly.
Correct.
You and us have had that conversation and you have tried to explain, and it's been quite a long process to understand. So perhaps to assist the commissioners and spare them the torture, we have obtained pictures that are publicly available. We're going to put up the picture of Chief Mapie with his ranks. So if you could talk us through the insignia and the ranks.
Correct, Commissioners.
And confirm whether Chief Mapie is wearing his correctly. And if they are correct, what must face wear? Thank you.
The rank insignia on Commissioner's Mapie's shoulders is indicating, for instance, two what we will call castles, but it is to align it with what the South African Police Service and Defence Force use. But it is a laurel leaves, and he wears 3 of those to donate his rank as the Chief of Police. And then he's got 2 swords and a sheath on the edge of the rank. So that sword must always point to the front. And the reason for that, there's symbolic behind it. There's even a government gazette that actually explains the depiction of this rank and what it looks like. That sword must show to the front because you are defending and attacking crime and defending yourself. If it shows to the back, it means you're a backstabber. That is what the rank is, that what we think immediately. If I look at General Masamola as the National Police Commissioner and he wears his rank wrong way around, in my mind I will immediately think, but it will never happen. It's when you are at that rank level, from in the SAPS it will be Major General, in the Defence Force it will be Brigadier General, but Major General, Lieutenant General, and then General. Your swords will always show to the front. And so there's a left and a right side if you put uniform on. It's like a left and a right shoe. And when you assemble your uniform, that's the first thing you look at, is to your short swords must go to the front because you are attacking crime and you are defending yourself. And when it goes to the back, you swapped it around and you become a backstabber.
Okay, now we understand. And I guess the commissioners can assume for the moment that you wear yours the same way as Chief Mapie.
I have a picture of me in uniform, or I can appear in uniform tomorrow morning.
Okay, we understand how they ought to be worn. Now, we found 2 random pictures of Brigadier Mkhwanazi with his. And if then you can contrast that with what we've come to understand based on your testimony, we'll just put them up quickly.
Correct. The swords on the
We're
left.
going to try and enlarge that picture.
Yeah, it's correct. It's swapped the wrong way around. And it's actually embarrassment, especially for me. I'm a 43-year career policeman working in this environment. At every forum, my current chief actually refers, every time when she sits next to him at meetings, she informs him, swap your rank around, it's wrong. You're wearing it the wrong way. So he's been reprimanded by the other chiefs to say, fix your rank, it's an embarrassment. And it just is wrong the whole time. He doesn't know which side must go to which side.
So,
sorry, can we firstly can we just confirm that is Brigadier Mkhwanazi? Let's not take it for granted that the rest of us know.
It's Deputy Commissioner Mkhwanazi.
Deputy Commissioner, I do apologize.
Yes, a brigadier rank will have a castle and 3 stars. That rank is a Deputy Commissioner rank.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, is it correct to assume that the process of conferring the rank requires the Chief of Police to attach to the uniform the actual insignia and georgette, as you call them?
Correct, Commissioners.
And from that, you get to learn that this is how they are to be worn.
Correct.
And we know the sword is facing backwards, you say, and that's not how it's supposed to be worn. From Chief Mapie, they appear to be facing forward.
Correct. It should be, he's wearing the epaulets on the wrong shoulders. That's why it turns around, because it's a mirror image of one another. If he swaps it around, the swords will show to the front.
Now, next to the swords, what is it? You call it the insignia, the 2?
It's 2 castles.
Yes.
And a sword. That denotes the level of a general. So if it's major general in the South African Police Service, it's 2 castles and a sword and a sheath. With us, it's a Deputy Municipal Police Commissioner with 2 castles and a sword and a sheath. The chief himself will then have 3 castles and a sword and a sheath. Because in terms of equivalence in ranking with the South African Police Service, the Chief of Police is equivalent to like a Lieutenant General because he reports operationally to the National Police Commissioner, the similar as Provincial Police Commissioners and Lieutenant Generals who are wearing then 3 castles and a sword and a sheath.
Okay, we have dealt with the sword and the sheath, is it you call?
There's like a little baton.
Yes. Now, you reference the castles. Are they facing the right way here in the picture that we see?
Castles, the rank in terms of the castles and the open end of the laurel leaves or the olive leaves must show towards his shoulder. But the insignia must swap around. So the left shoulder must go to the right shoulder and the right shoulder must go to the left shoulder. The moment you swap your insignia around, they will actually turn around and face to the front again.
Okay. I think that was an easier explanation through the use of pictures.
I thought there was another picture that...
There is, but on consideration, I don't think... Please swap to that. It's not as visible as the one we projected, but we will, and you will see. Thanks. No, we'll very quickly. These were obtained publicly, so it was what was available. It's on Commissioner Khumalo. I don't know if
If anybody raises copyright issues, you are on your own, Ms.
Yes, I guess I'll have to deal with copyright issues in the fullness of time. They're publicly available. And I think it's quite in order for Brigadier Mkwanazi to state that he's not the person indicated in these pictures, and I'll have to accept it from him because we took them from the public arena.
The callers,
Commissioners, that is called Georgette. It's the same rank, it's just in a miniature version, because when I'm, for instance, a tall person, so if I stand, then people cannot see directly my epaulettes and my rank. So from the front, when you face someone, you can see Georgette. The same with my peak cap. If you look at the peak cap, there will be 3 branches of laurel leaves. And when you are a deputy commissioner or a commissioner, the 3 leaves will have a little flower at the top as well. So that is denoting rank. When we are walking between one another and I don't know you from anywhere, if by looking at that, I can immediately see your rank. The Georgette is easier to fit to your collar because the Georgette has got a physical shape and your collar has got a triangle as well. And your swords must show away from your neck, again to attack and defend and not cut your own neck. It's symbolic into it, so that you don't become suicidal on your own and cut your own neck with your own rank.
Are you saying in this photo?
The Georgette is correct, and his rank on the epaulette is completely wrong.
Oh.
Thank you, Commissioner Kumaloza. Brigadier Spies, that would then lead us to your next topic, which is that you have headed External Community Liaison Unit, CLU, and irregular appointments/promotions. You start this at paragraph 68.
Correct. And to state that at this stage of what we found everything so far and what I've then experienced is that my firm belief was that this is a criminal enterprise within the municipal police. There's a core group of officers specifically within the specialized services that they're involved in serious crimes based on the fingerprint records, based on where they are, based on the fact that they don't want to do this. And then we have a formal structure in a unit called CLU, Community Liaison Unit. But in this unit itself, and this unit was, at that stage, it was a superintendent, Dion Singh. It was in 2015 when this incident took place. We only discovered it in 2024.